Would you ever imagine that bankruptcy could actually save you from jail? What happens if you stop paying your child support?
You can't just let it fly or let it slide and just, put your head in the sand and think it's all gonna be okay. You need to run into court and file some sort of petition to modify that child support.
If you have nothing to sell and you don't have any ability to make more money immediately, this is your only option. Would you ever imagine that bankruptcy could actually save you from jail? You've lost everything. You've lost your family, you've lost your home, you've lost your stability, and you're facing a situation where you're unable to pay certain debts and certain things, and you are looking at time in jail. Welcome to another episode of Motivational Esquire. My name is Diego Mendez. I am a foreclosure, bankruptcy, and debt lawyer here in the state of Florida, in the city of Miami. Today we're talking about a very sticky and important subject, which is how bankruptcy can help a person catch up with back child support payments and keep them out of jail. Many people don't understand that that's one of the potential outcomes of not paying your child support. I have my wonderful friend here, Jeanette Watkins, who is a practitioner in family law, divorce law for many, many years. And here in the state of Florida, in the city of Miami, we've known each other for many years. We've worked on many cases together. And we are here to talk about, and you're going to explain to me what happens if you stop paying your child support.
So child support is a duty owed to the child. So when you stop paying your child support, you risk going to jail because the law doesn't want people to stop paying their support because they become a burden on the government. Then you have all these people asking for social assistance, and the courts and the legislature, they want parents to provide for their own children. So if you don't pay for child support, it can be subject to contempt of court. And if you don't have the ability to pay, then you could end up in jail. Now, if you find yourself and say, look, I can't pay this child support, then you need to find a way to modify the child support. You can't just let it fly or let it slide and just, put your head in the sand and think it's all gonna be okay. It's not, because it continues to accumulate over the years and they become arrears. So if you can't afford your child support, you need to find a way to modify that child support obligation. Now, if you're just trying to be fresh, you just don't want to pay it, that's a different story. The law is not going to help you out with that. But if you legitimately can't pay, let's say you had a duty for $1,000 and at some point you were making more money and your income went down. And now your income, for whatever reason, is now at $500 a week, let's say. So you're only making $2,000 a month. And you can no longer afford to pay $1,000 like you were before. You need to run into court and file some sort of petition to modify that child support. Because until you do, it's just gonna keep accruing. And if the court does find you have the ability to pay and you're not paying, you could be thrown into jail.
And then another possible outcome is they suspend your driver's license.
Absolutely, that is absolutely a possibility, where if you don't pay your child support, your driver's license will be suspended. You're really in a very, very tough position when your driver's license is suspended and you can't even make it to your job to pay for that child support. So it is a really tough situation. Make sure you're on top with the child support every month on the day it says. Don't be late on that.
And don't ignore it. If you can't pay, do not ignore the fact you're not paying your child support. This is not something that you should ignore.
Absolutely not. Do not ignore it. Like I said, if you cannot pay it, find a lawyer, find somebody to help you, go into court and get a modification. Because if you don't, the law and the courts assume that you can continue paying for it. And so if you really can't pay it, you really need to go and modify it so that you can pay what you can afford.
And how does the court handle the amount of money that you have not paid, the arrears with the back payments? How would the family law deal with that?
Usually arrears are dealt with, it gets you don't have to pay it all in one lump sum. So let's say someone owes $10,000, then they have to pay, let's say 20% of the arrears on a monthly basis. So you don't have to pay, like if you owe 10,000, you don't have to pay the full 10,000. A calculation gets made as to what amounts get applied, and they get added to the child support. If you owe, let's say $500 in child support, the courts calculate some amount to apply. So it would be your child support plus a percentage of the arrears. So now you're paying, let's call it 500 plus 100, for example. So now you're paying 600 because 500 is for the child support, and let's call it 100 for arrears. It doesn't get added on all on a lump sum, but it's a percentage, many times 20% is added.
And let's say that you have arrears, you haven't been paying for a while, and the kid turns 18. What happens in that situation? You're off the hook? You don't have to pay?
No, the arrears survive. You're going to still have to continue paying for those arrears. It doesn't disappear. You're still on the hook for it.
So the kid's 18 and you still got to pay back whatever you owe.
Yeah, because think about it. You didn't pay for it before. So why would you be on the hook? Because you decided not to pay for it. Or now, if you legitimately can't pay for it, that's why I keep saying, run into court and modify it. Because if not, your kid's going to be 18 and you're going to be paying money that you didn't know you couldn't pay. And that is a really important subject about going to modify, because a lot of people are like, oh, I can't pay for it. I'm just not going to pay for it. And that's the worst thing you can do, because you're going to keep being in that bad position just over and over and over. It's just lasting longer. But if you would have fixed it before with an attorney or whichever way, the point is it has to be fixed, because if not, you will be in bigger debt. You still won't be able to pay for it, but you're going to still accrue the debt. Diego, I have a question. I heard that the bankruptcy court can assist people who are late on their child support and alimony. Can you explain that, please?
Absolutely. The bankruptcy, when a person that's late on their child support or alimony can file a bankruptcy and catch up on those late payments. You would file a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 11, but much easier, Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and you have 5 years to catch up on the arrears of the child support. So let's assume the kid is 10 years old and the child support payment is $500 a month, and you owe, to make it really easy, $6,000 of back payments. You don't have $6,000 and you can't come up with the money. You would have 60 months to pay that $6,000 plus the $500. So you would pay $500 plus $100, because 6,000 divided by 60, and you would give you 5 years to pay that off. You pay more because there's other things you have to pay, but that portion of it is what goes to the child support. So what are the benefits? Number one, there's an automatic stay. The automatic stay basically says, okay, courts, everything stops, no jail. If your license is suspended, they have to unsuspend your license. Okay, you get out of the suspension. You get out of the threat of going to jail. I've never filed anybody in jail, but I'm assuming that if you're actually in jail and you file a Chapter 13, they got to let you out, to go work and pay the plan. That's what I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And you get to come out and you get to pay off this money that is going to your kid, but you have more time to do it. It stops everything. It's a huge, amazing thing. Now, a little caveat to that, the court could ask you to pay a little bit faster, the arrears, so maybe you don't get 5 years, maybe you get 3 years. But whatever, it doesn't matter, because what else? Well, you have no other choice. What else are you going to do? If you have nothing to sell and you don't have any ability to make more money immediately, this is your only option. I mean, this is what keeps people out of jail. And I've helped a lot of people in that situation. That I've done. I've done it on the eve of a contempt hearing where they're about to go to jail that day. They're going to get arrested at the hearing. And we file a bankruptcy 10 minutes before, and they don't go to jail, and they successfully confirmed the plan, and they've paid off their child support, and they've moved on with their lives. It's not the best way to handle it. The best way is to work with your ex-wife or ex-husband and pay it off somehow through them. But if that's not going to work, if they don't want that, if they want the money now, or if they want to see you in jail, which a lot of people do, then you can use the bankruptcy to protect you and keep you out and keep you working. So yeah, I mean that is part of the bankruptcy code. Now, You have to understand, you don't get a discharge you don't get to wipe that money out. You don't get to not pay it. You just have more time, and it's a forced plan. If you're an honest debtor and you propose a plan in a Chapter 13 that is feasible and it works, and you've checked off all the other boxes, you've been honest with your debts and your assets, the court will confirm a plan and will allow you to make these payments over a period of time. Doesn't matter what anybody objects to. It doesn't matter, because it's the point of bankruptcy is to allow people to deal with their debt.
So can you give me an example? Like if somebody owes, for example, if they owe a month $3,000 in alimony and $2,000 in child support and they can't afford it, how is a plan for 60 months going to, do they have to pay half of the amount, or is it like a percentage? And then what happens to the balance of what hasn't been paid?
Well, in alimony, it's treated differently than child support. Well, sort of. Depends on the age of the child and depends on the amount of alimony it's left to pay. So it's a 5-year plan. So if the child support ends before the 5 years, then it's treated as a whole amount. So what does that mean? If it's $500 a month and there's 2 years, what is that? $12,000, correct? Of 2 years left. So you can spread that over 5 years and pay less per month. The same with the alimony.
Oh, I see.
You can take the alimony, instead of paying, if the alimony ends within the 5 years, it's a whole amount. So if let's say it's $10,000 a month, right? So $240,000 over 2 years, which is left to pay. You can take that $240 and spread it over 5 years, which lowers your alimony payment. The ex-wife or ex-husband gets the full amount, gets it all, but they have to wait for it. They have to wait more time. They can object. There's things people can do, and it can get really crazy. But the assumption is that if you're an honest debtor and you've done everything properly, that the court will let you do that.
So what happens if someone has an alimony for 10 years? Then how does this plan apply, for example, if their plan is for 5 years and then they have another 5 years of the same type of alimony?
Well, then in that situation, you would catch up on the arrears if you have arrears, and then you just keep paying the alimony regular afterwards. So, you become current. There's actually a motion you file. It's called motion and deemed current at the end of the 5 years. And then you're current with everything you're supposed to owe, and then you just keep paying it. You keep paying what the other 5 years or 4 years that's left as if nothing happened. It's a powerful tool. It's the only tool that people have when the ex-spouse will not work with you, and you have no choice. That's it. File the bankruptcy and it'll save you.
And does filing bankruptcy pause wage garnishment?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Okay. Wage garnishments are a form of collection, so the automatic stay stops all collection activities, all of it. So any kind of collection activity that you have, the bankruptcy will stop it. And wage garnishment is one of the forms that they collect the debt. They cannot collect the debt that way, so it's stopped. And if you have a wage garnishment through a court order for child support, it's stopped also. The federal law is supreme over the state law. This is a lot of lawyer talk, but the family court and the bankruptcy court have what's called concurrent jurisdiction over the family law cases, meaning that they both have a say in what happens in these cases. That does not apply to any other type of case. In every other case, the bankruptcy court is supreme, and they decide whatever, and it is what it is. Not whatever, but it's a supreme. The rulings are more they have more weight than any other situation. In family court, there's concurrent with the bankruptcy court, even though the federal law is supreme in certain things, but the family court has a say in some situations. So you can try to use both courts, but in general, everything stops. The automatic stay is supreme, so everything has to stop. You can ask the court to modify the automatic stay and say, I want to do this in family court, but you can't do it on your own. You have to go through the court. That's really what it is. So you can still say, hey, I want to continue this case in the family court. I want you to decide. I want to do it over here. And there's a motion, and there's an opportunity to be heard. And many times the court will say, yeah, I don't know anything about family law. Do it over there. So those are the things that that are played in.
Super interesting.
Yeah. Jeanette, what is your best advice for somebody that's dealing with a child support arrears and child supports that can't be paid? What do you do?
Best advice is, if you can pay it, pay it. If you cannot pay it, go and file a petition for modification so you can pay what you can afford. Because if not, there are just too many ramifications. There's going to jail, there's suspending your driver's license, there's just so many things that can go wrong, and you just really need to be on top of your finances. If you really can't afford it because you've lost your job, then take the steps necessary to go into court, do a modification. Even if you have to hire an attorney, do it so that you can have your finances in order.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Been very informative. Now we understand what we can do in a situation where you can't pay your child support. It's not the end of the world. There's ways, to deal with it through the courts, through the bankruptcy court. It's really important not to ignore it. That's what we learned today. Do not ignore the problem. Thank you very much for coming today. I really appreciate your time. It's been very informative. I know people are going to learn a lot about this, and you're very trustworthy. You come off as somebody that really knows what they're talking about, and I really appreciate you giving me your presence and your time here.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the knowledge with regards to bankruptcy. Also very, very important to know how to help people to get out of a situation where, sometimes you just can't come to an agreement with your spouse. I mean, that is the reason you're divorcing them. I mean, you can't get along. So many times, you're not going to come to an agreement off the table, on an agreement because they just feel they have the leverage. So many times, they don't have any other remedy but bankruptcy, and you've provided that information. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for watching my podcast, Motivational Esquire, where we talk about different situations revolving around debt. Today we talked about child support and the issues that people have. They can't afford their child support. What happens to you? One of the outcomes, maybe you go to jail. But now we know that you can avoid that by dealing with your ex-spouse, going to court, not ignoring it, and if all else fails, you can file bankruptcy, catch up with those payments, and get your life back on track. Thank you very much for spending some time with me and my guests, and till the next episode.
Para quererte.